So, out on the high seas, there's this wild story unfolding. It's got a mysterious oil spill, a phantom tanker, and a whole global network of ghost ships that are operating just outside the law. And it all centers on this one vessel, the Flora 1, and the secret fleet that it belongs to.
Okay, so picture this. It all kicks off in the Baltic Sea. Authorities spot this massive, 8-mile-long oil slick. Now, for an environmental disaster this big, there has to be a culprit. And you know what? Investigators had a prime suspect almost immediately.
So, investigators board and detain a tanker called the Flora 1. And get this isn't just any old ship. It's already been sanctioned by the European Union. It seems like a total open and shut case, right? But then they let it go. They said they didn't have enough evidence to prove it caused this specific spill. So what is really going on here?
To really get why this ship was suspect number one, you have to look at its history, and let me tell you, it has quite a record. For starters, the Flora 1 has changed its name 6 different times. Now, that's just not something a legitimate vessel does. It's a classic tactic for a ship that's trying to erase its past and, avoid being tracked.
And it gets even more complicated. The ship has changed its flag, that's the country it's registered in, 9 different times. When it was stopped, investigators weren't even sure which country's flag it was flying. This constant shuffling of its identity is just a massive red flag.
And all these little pieces, they fit together into this pattern of really suspicious behavior. The Flora 1 has been caught turning off its automatic tracking system, essentially going dark to hide where it is. It also engages in these risky ship-to-ship transfers way out at sea, which is a common way to disguise the true origin of its cargo. In this case, Russian oil.
And look, this behavior wasn't a secret. The Flora 1 was already on the sanction lists of the EU, the UK, Canada, and Australia before this oil spill even happened. It was a known bad actor, and as we're about to see, it's just part of a much, much larger network.
And this is where the story gets so much bigger. The Flora 1 isn't some lone wolf. It's just one ship in a massive armada that's known as the Shadow Fleet.
So what exactly is the Shadow Fleet? Well, it's this huge clandestine network of oil tankers. Most of them are old, their ownership is deliberately confusing, and they all have one mission: to transport Russian oil all around the world while dodging international sanctions.
And this slide really breaks down how this all got started. See, the G7 nations put a price cap on Russian oil to try and cut into its war funding. To enforce it, they basically forbade Western insurance and shipping firms, the backbone of global trade, from handling any oil sold above that cap. And the response? The creation of the Shadow Fleet, which uses non-Western insurance and a web of shell companies to just operate outside the rules.
But this isn't just about dodging sanctions. This fleet of ghost ships represents a very clear, very present danger to all of our oceans and coastlines.
I mean, just look at the difference. A standard tanker is modern, its ownership is totally clear, it has top-tier Western insurance, and its location is always tracked. A Shadow Fleet tanker, on the other hand, it's typically old, poorly maintained, its ownership is a complete mystery, its insurance is questionable at best, and it frequently just disappears from tracking systems. It's a ticking time bomb, an accident waiting to happen.
And that brings us to the most critical question. When one of these poorly insured, anonymously owned ships causes a catastrophic spill, who pays? Who is responsible for that massive cleanup? The answer is terrifyingly unclear.
So, let's circle back to where we began, with the Flora 1 in the Baltic Sea. Now that we understand the full context of the Shadow Fleet, we can really see what was at stake.
In the end, the Swedish Coast Guard couldn't pin this specific 8-mile spill on the Flora 1, so they had to let it go. But the Flora 1 and the hundreds of other ships just like it are still out there sailing. The underlying threat? It hasn't gone away at all.
And that leaves us with a deeply unsettling question. This incident in the Baltic was a warning shot. But with a whole fleet of aging, poorly insured ghost ships crisscrossing our oceans every single day, it's not a matter of if a major disaster will happen, but when. And are we prepared for who will be left to clean up the mess?